Listen to Philosophy Talk every Tuesday at noon on KSJE 90.9 FM, Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, which is officially baby-friendly. This evidence-based initiative is designed to support mother-baby bonding and optimal infant feeding practices by upholding the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. San Juan Regional Medical Center, officially baby-friendly, and serving the Four Corners since 1910. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock, Monday morning, November 25th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Micklin, and thanks for tuning in to KSJE Radio, 90.9 FM over the air in San Juan County, 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere on our website at ksje.com. We also call it visual radio because we welcome our viewers who are watching the program live as we stream to our KSJE Facebook page and to our YouTube channel. We're glad you're with us as well, everyone. Coming up in the next few moments, my conversation with Farmington Municipal Schools Superintendent Dr. Eugene Schmidt. He is here to talk about education this morning. He's also brought with him the newest member of the Farmington School Board, Joan Vallee, who won the election in November. We'll be talking with her as well this morning, so we hope you'll join us right here on KSJE. Later on this hour, we'll check out technology, talking with Lewis Campbell from Synergy Computer Systems here in Farmington. That's coming up today at 8:50 a.m. Next hour, Mick Hess will take us roving with the arts, 9:06 after the news, of course. Mick has some great holiday arts news to share with us, as well as some great music from the one and only Mozart, playing some of his string quartets on the program today. So we hope you'll stay tuned for that coming up immediately following this program. Don't forget, of course, to connect with us on social media. If you're not already, connect with us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter and check out KSJE on Instagram as well. Weather forecast, there's a lot to talk about because we've got a mixed bag of weather this week. It's going to be windy today with a high of 52 and then a chance of some snow showers developing overnight tonight. Windy again tomorrow on Tuesday and much colder, the high only 34 on Tuesday, 19 Tuesday night, and then mostly cloudy skies on Wednesday with a high of 43 before another storm system has a chance of a frozen mix of rain and snow showers Wednesday night with a low of 33 degrees. And then on Thanksgiving, a chance of rain with a high of 48. More chances for showers overnight Thanksgiving night, 36 for a low Thursday. More chances for rain and snow on Friday with a high of 42. And chance for rain or snow on Saturday, much colder as well. The high only 33 on Saturday. Maybe some sunshine, but cold on Sunday with a high of 31 degrees. It's Monday morning here on KSJE, and my guest in our visual radio studio for his regular monthly interview with me, Dr. Eugene Schmidt, is here from the Farmington School District. Dr. Schmidt, good morning.
Scott, good morning, and good morning to the Four Corners.
Good to have you here, and you brought with you one of the newest members of the Farmington School Board, I know. Joan Vallee is here. Joan, good morning, and welcome back to KSJE.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, and congratulations on your victory in the school board election that we had earlier this month. So it's good to have you here as well. And Dr. Schmidt, I want to personally thank you. Dr. Schmidt came with a check to support KSJE, yes. And he would like me to show it. I'm going to cover the account numbers here, everybody, but you can just see that Dr. Schmidt has made us a check, and we appreciate that very much. We just got through with our fundraising campaign last week, our DJ for a Day event, and so this donation I know will be matched with all the others that came in. So thank you very much for your support.
I'm a strong believer in what you got going on, and really appreciative of you giving us that educational Four Corners every Wednesday at the end of the month.
That's true. That's true. And we've switched a little bit this month to put you on Mondays, but
yes.
Normally you're on a Wednesday, so we may get a whole new audience today.
Yes.
That maybe haven't seen us before talking together, so that's okay too. But let's get started because, as usual, there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to Farmington schools, and let's get right to it, right?
Yes, we really do. And so as in a quick synopsis, this is an anticipatory set all the teachers would talk about is, I want to talk about the celebration of success for our school district because we continue to get national recognition, and that should be a point of pride for our listening audience that Four Corners is the standard bearer for education of New Mexico's education system. And I want to talk about that, have some thoughts on the strategic plan because that is in the process of being updated, and it is being updated in a new kind of style. Not traditional strategic planish, but something that New Mexico educators would identify as 90-day plans. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, have an example to share. Certainly want to celebrate Joan and give her time to share her belief systems again as a newly elected board member. And New Mexico congratulates you, as does our Four Corners. And then we'll maybe end up with some time to talk about budget. And if there's any time after that, I want to sneak in and talk about some ninth grade work we're doing in algebra.
Okay.
So let's get to it.
All right. Maybe a 2-hour show, everyone. I don't know, but we'll see what we can fit in this morning. But that sounds great, Dr. Schmidt, as always. And so, as always, you had some recognition of your schools since we last got together, and that I think is certainly worth talking about because it doesn't happen very often.
Yes, let me talk first about National Blue Ribbons. And we just came back from Washington, D.C. Principal Maestas and I came, and a special ed teacher, which would please Joan a lot, David Travis, was the teacher representative for Ladera, and in part because much of his work was in closing the achievement gap for special ed kids at Ladera. So we had a chance, Scott, to mingle with America's finest. And that's a real tribute to the Four Corners. It's the first in the history of Farmington Municipal schools to have a blue ribbon school. And what makes it especially exciting, if I can have you go to the next slide, is that in addition to being recognized for the work that Farmington Ladera is doing, we have been contacted by the U.S. Department of Ed. They're going to send out a film crew.
Wow.
They have on the U.S. Department of Education site America's Best Schools that they highlight video stories. And I just think that's a great way to tell the work that the special ed department is doing. Certainly the educational core teachers, the specials at Ladera, but I will say good for Ladera, but great for Farmington because the work at Ladera is emblematic of the work I believe is happening in all elementaries across the district. So we celebrate them by name, but we celebrate all of our schools. And what is especially, I think, poignant and exciting is that it is the first school in New Mexico state history to be identified, to be profiled on the U.S. Education Department website. So that's a really big, that's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
They call the blue ribbon the Super Bowl of education, Joan. And so I would want my Ladera staff and students and community to be especially excited that, you know, when you get to Washington, you see this thing, oh, you're one of those Super Bowl schools. And so it's a good feeling. And what the listening audience would be really pleased to hear is the award ceremony took about 4 hours. And we are like the 342nd school to get announced in this long afternoon of celebration. That gives the classrooms and the teachers at Ladera time to be texting back and forth pictures and words of encouragement. And finally, it's our turn, and this thing is live video streamed across America. The kids at Ladera are all watching, cheering for their principal as she walks across the stage. I have these little things, pictures of kids that they sent her dance across the stage, Principal Ladera, or things like say cheese nice. Or something. But the kids were really into it, even though the ceremony takes hours and they do the East Coast and then the Central. And finally, it's Ladera's turn and the crowd goes crazy across the Farmington community. But first in the history of New Mexico to do this. And we couldn't be more proud of Ladera. We couldn't be more proud of Farmington Municipal Schools. So you're coming in at a time when, the challenge matches, you're great, but there's even a greater place to go to. So just part of the story, part of the celebration that took place. Feel good about what's going on in our schools.
Well, congratulations again. I know it's a lot of work by a lot of people. I think that you would give credit to and share credit with the principal and all the way down through the teachers, the custodians, and everybody that helps contribute to the well-being of your students at Ladera and other schools too.
Yeah, it's that whole Ladera community, that whole village, and certainly it doesn't happen without the support of an appreciative and public education-minded community. I happened to be at a Four Corners Economic Development Council meeting last week, and Arvin Trujillo, of course, is the CEO of that, but we were celebrating that success at his Four Corners meeting, and so I chanced to say, how many of you in this room are graduates of Ladera Elementary? And it was fun watching the hands go up around of the adults in our community who are now business leaders, having gone through that school. So it's a great story. But Scott, as I'm about to share, in your next slide, the story keeps growing because there's a group called Advanced Ed, and they partnered with Measured Progress. I'll talk about the difference between the two.
Okay.
To now form a group called Cognia. And Advanced Ed, 2 years ago, Joan, we went through a systems-wide accreditation. We had a national review team come in and spend several days in our school, visiting our schools, to try and understand how well we engage kids in the learning process. And we were selected for national accreditation, but really internationally benchmarks us against the best schools in the world. And we're one of the very few in New Mexico who has gone through that accreditation process and earned it. But what is additionally interesting, in the course of telling that story, these people go back and they tell their national headquarters and they talk about people. Well, they call us, and they also want to do a case study, just as the U.S. Department of Ed wants to do a video story.
Right.
These people want to come out and do what they call a case study of how Farmington is using systems to become better at its work. And in our conversation, Scott, we've talked many times about principals pursuing excellence, teachers pursuing excellence. We've talked about the Farmington model of instruction, but those are systems and structures. And if you do those systems and structures well, education and proficiency, mastery of learning, those things get better.
Well, and Dr. Schmidt, if I'm remembering correctly, does this not have something to do with the Baldrige Award and the Baldrige theory and things like that of managing systems and things?
And you're exactly right, and I thank you for sharing that. We believe in building structures and systems, and so, Joan, you would be interested in knowing that at the same time we were going through the Advanced Ed accreditation process, we connected with Quality New Mexico, and they have statewide recognitions for the work that schools or businesses, if they are done well, and this is an honor because San Juan College has, I want to say they're a Roadrunner, a recognized award winner as well, but they award recognitions, and the Roadrunner that we received was the second highest award that New Mexico gives for putting strong protocols, practices, approaches into place that generate results. And so somewhere in our story, I wanted to share with Joan and our listening audience that when we get into the budget, make me talk about Think New Mexico.
Okay.
Because that's a group that identified Farmington as doing the most with the least amount of money. And so there's a huge story there that we can get to. But I did want to listen to or tell our audience that Cognia, Advanced Ed, and Measured Progress teamed up. That is the company that will be producing the new annual assessment. And so that's where you're going to hear this name come April. Cognia, well, that's our new grades 3 through 8 assessment.
I see.
Has come from this company. So it's interesting and maybe fortuitous or that we've been working for several years with the company that will be taking New Mexico into its future. And so we're very excited to be on the forefront of that conversation. But Cognia will be doing a national case study that will be published in the spring, and many of my staff will be invited to go on a talking tour about how we have built these structures and systems to add and enhance the quality of our education. So great stories all across the district. It's most fun when people you don't know about come in from the outside and say, we like what you're doing.
And these are interesting things to me, Dr. Schmidt, when you're talking about these major employers like San Juan College and the Farmington schools, when you have companies and organizations with hundreds of employees. That's what these folks are looking at, right, are your systems and your checks and your balances, and to make sure everything is going the way that's supposed to go, and that you've got people that are making sure it happens that way.
Yes, and as an example, our district, depending upon counting volunteers or not, we have about 1,450 actual employees. You add volunteers, it's over 1,900. That's a lot of people to manage, in addition to $95 million worth of budget. And so it's reassuring when other people come in and say, they look at how you do things. Does your finance, does it align with the work of your transportation? Does your transportation support the work of the instruction in the classroom? Does the central office staff, do they make sure that they fill the needs of our classrooms? And so the custodians that you mentioned earlier, the secretaries, it really is a part of a bigger story. And if any of those, my deputy superintendent Valdez has a great example I want to share. He envisions the school as the sprockets on your bicycle. You got 2 of them. In some cases, you got 10. Right. But those things have to be aligned when you change the gears, or the whole thing stops. And so when you talk about quality in New Mexico, you talk about advanced ed accreditation, and now the U.S. Education Department is interested in, that tells you that they think our sprockets are aligned and that bicycle's rolling. So it's a great story.
Well, and I guess you're showing that the bicycle's still moving forward, or else you wouldn't be going anywhere if they weren't aligned. And I think that's what's getting the attention, too, from these other third-party departments and organizations. So kudos again. And apparently there's more to tell, because there's going to be a presentation in California in early 2020?
Yes, and again, just part of the story. When you begin to show success that others haven't realized, and Joan, you'd be interested in knowing that our proficiency rates for ELA, think about the 10 largest schools, the Rio Ranchos, the Albuquerques, the Las Cruces, the 10 biggest, we are the best at what we do. And when you're at the best at what you do attract the interests of others. And so the American Association of Superintendents have invited Farmington to San Diego to present at their national. We'll use some of the things that we have learned in building high reliability systems. And so it's very exciting that we get to talk about how the district's partnership with schools is making a difference. You know, we're just not down there in that 30th Street Center hanging out, Scott. We're actively involved in the work at the school. So this is a chance that the National Association of Superintendents are interested in that story. So Joan, that's literally an audience of thousands that will come to this and want to hear that story. So good for Farmington and the work, and I thank all my staff as we celebrate Thanksgiving in a couple of days.
That's true, and I think folks are maybe seeing that maybe what's working here in Farmington schools maybe could work in their districts, and that's why they want to maybe hear what's working in your district and pick your brain a little bit and find out maybe how they can implement these same policies and academics in their districts.
Yes, and so 3 different levels. Certainly, we have had any number of New Mexico school districts have come and tried to understand what we're doing and building similar systems. For example, Rio Rancho is very interested in how we take our central office up 15 or so people will go to a building and talk to kids, teachers, parents, and get a snapshot of that school in a day. and then do that times 19 schools twice a year, trying to understand what is the support that we should be giving to those schools. So that's at the state level. When the U.S. Department of Ed, when Cognia, now the National Superintendents Association, they have audience of thousands and hundreds of thousands of schools that they will be telling our story to, and then say, all roads lead to Farmington.
Right. And that's got to be great recognition, again, for the systems that you have in place and the ways your students are excelling with all these things in place, too. Because they're all, I know, based on data, and it wouldn't go anywhere if there wasn't the numbers to back it up.
Yeah, the data has grown every year. The proficiency rates have increased. And when you have a school Farmington size and you jump 5%, that's 1,000 kids. And so the numbers and the percents have real meaning.
And the 5% is 5% proficiency is what you're talking about.
Yeah, when you raise your proficiencies over what you
that's
had
1,000
before,
students.
You're talking bundles of kids.
Right. Well, congratulations once again. I want to ask you a bit about your Parents Advisory Council Committee, Dr. Schmidt.
Yes.
And again, this is something that you meet with these parents that represent maybe other parents every month, talk about how things are going in the schools?
Yes, I have 19 schools, and every school is asked to provide at least one parent volunteer for what we call the Superintendent's Advisory Council. We meet once a month, and it gives me a chance to really talk to people at the ground level. It's unfiltered talk when you get to talk to the parents who've come directly from their schools, and these parents are often selected from groups of parents, sometimes from their PTAs and sometimes from the principals' leadership committees, but it gives you a direct face into the community, and these people bring lots of ideas, and some of the things that I've learned in our first 2 meetings of the year is that district office can do better at communication, so we're always grateful that you give us this voice. But as the community knows, our district Facebook has been down for our district website has been down for a while.
Website, right.
We've just rebranded, it's up, and so I'll be doing that, and I'm going to be doing some better efforts to get out into the community to talk about what we're doing, because what we're doing is wonderful work. And so I'm working through the voice of these parents as to say, how can we do better and communicating. Certainly parents have concerns about our math scores in the district. That's something that we'd like to work on. And so it's good to hear the voices of, we see some teachers in this building, let's use Ladera, we see some positive things happening there. Why aren't you doing those things across the district? Or how might we take some of those lessons learned? A year ago, Joan will remember that Northeast Elementary was a national Title I distinguished school, first in the history of New Mexico for our district. And so we do have schools doing very positive work, and we want to take that work, things that we have learned, and push it out. And if that can be replicated, then it's going to be better days ahead.
Very good. Well, and good for you to be open to hearing from parents and representatives from all those schools to hear what their concerns are, because they may be very different from building to building, I suppose. It's not the same story everywhere.
Yes, what we're learning and what I've come to appreciate is each of our buildings represents a community, and that community has an identity, and they would like that school's behavior to mimic or model or represent what they are and what they would like to do. So those conversations have been very helpful, and if you're a parent of a Farmington student and have an interest in maybe coming in and giving voice, I would welcome you to give me a call, and we'll see if you can get an invite to a future meeting. Okay,
very, very good. My guest this morning, Dr. Eugene Schmidt, is here. He's the superintendent of schools with the Farmington School District. Joan Vallee is also with us this morning, newly elected school board member, and we want to talk about the school board elections for a moment, Dr. Schmidt, because you do have a new school board member, and then you have 2 returning members, although one of them is fairly new herself as well, correct?
Yes, and so several things about this last election is whatever the process of an election in the past, those rules no longer apply. It is a new election system where groups of different kinds of issues are all bundled on the same ballot. And so a board member that 10 years ago might have been elected with 70 votes, now 400 may not be enough.
That's right.
And so it's a whole different kind of election, and so future board elections, people will have to take that into consideration. But
moving the election from the spring, where it's normally been, or winter, to the fall, with the other questions on the ballot in November, is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Was what we just experienced here a few weeks ago.
And I do want to appreciate. It was well over 11% of our electorate that participated, and as in the past, that might have been 2% for a board election.
Right.
So this is a positive.
Right.
And so we're changing the way elections run, but we're very pleased to have Board President Rhodes. He was reelected, and Stephanie Thompson, who
She was appointed.
appointed for Mike Isaacson, and when you get appointed, then you run.
And
But
she-
Stephanie also will be returning to the board, so it brings some tradition, it brings some newness, and so I'm anxious to hear Joan talk a little bit on the radio this morning and talk about some of her hopes and visions for her service to the board.
I would like that too, and Joan's been waiting very patiently to be brought into the conversation here this morning, so I appreciate you being here, Joan Vallee, and talk to us a little bit about, I guess, the election. This was a big race and a other competition for you, but you came out on top with more votes, and so what are you looking forward to accomplishing on the Farmington School Board?
Well, I was very glad to hear that Farmington has been recognized nationwide, because usually what happens is New Mexico gets recognized as number 50.
Many times we're on that end of the list, aren't we? That's
and
true.
for many, many things.
Right.
So if Farmington is starting to do that, one of the things that might be happening is people will look at us and say, what are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
And how are they doing it? And can we get together and perhaps exchange ideas?
And I think that's what we're hearing about, being invited to some of these other conferences and sharing some of the techniques that are doing so well here in Farmington. It sounds like you are getting some attention, Dr. Schmidt.
Yes.
So.
And it's not just in New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
it's across the country.
Yes.
And that's a really great thing, because we need that. Because these children are not going to always stay in New Mexico. They're going to go to other places. They're going to need to know many other things besides just what happens here. So I was really glad to hear that. The election, I had never seen that many votes. And I've
For a
been-
school board election, right?
For a school board
That's
election.
right. That's right.
And normally, I know the last time the last person who was in District 5, where I now am, she didn't even go on the paperwork. She just was a write-in candidate.
Oh, interesting. Mhm.
And she didn't get that many votes, but she won.
Right.
And that's changing. So I think that in this area, people are becoming much more interested in what's going on politically, because what's going on with jobs, what's going on with politics and who's running things. Things like that are really important. And I know I was really surprised, because I got, from the last time I heard, I got 399 votes, and my opponent got 372.
It was close. Close. Yeah.
Yeah, it was close, but I won.
You did. And congratulations yet again. And
Thank you.
so now you're going to be running things to a certain degree with your colleagues on the Farmington School Board.
Yes.
And so what do you hope to be able to accomplish, or what are some of your thoughts? I know it's early, and you'll be sworn in January. Isn't that true, Dr.
January 9th.
Yes. What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to seeing what you just talked
Yes.
about.
Okay.
A lot.
Right.
As a teacher and adjunct faculty here at San Juan College, and someone who's always involved with people and learning, I want to see how we can get even better. Because it doesn't have to be like 25%. It can be that 5%. And that makes a difference.
You bet.
I'm
That's
also very interested in seeing what's going on in the special ed department, because that's a very difficult place to get teachers, and teachers who stay,
Right.
and teachers who know how to do all those things. And as a former special ed teacher all around San Juan County,
I was going to say, you have some special insights into that profession,
yes,
into that job. You know what it takes.
I know what it takes, and I know sometimes if you're teaching very small children, you have to get down on the floor and play. You have to read books with them. If they're outside, you have to swing on the swings. You have to dig up worms. You have to do all those things that get a child interested. And as they grow older, you have to remember that they still have the difficulty learning, but it gets better. And they're getting to be older and older, and they want to learn.
Sure.
So that, I agree too with Dr. Schmidt that the schools are communities, because whichever middle school you go to, that's a particular area, which high school, which grade school, and kids will say, well, I go to this school, and you go to that school.
Becomes
so-
part of their identity, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
it
really
does,
does.
and they enjoy it.
Sure.
So,
Maybe have a little bit of pride in their school, too.
yes, they
I
do.
would think. So.
They do.
Very good.
They
Well,
do.
and Dr. Schmidt, I would think having someone like Joan Vallee on the school board as someone who's maybe walked the walk and talked the talk of special education has got to be good for the other school board members and other folks that are on the board that can maybe learn a thing or two from her observations and her career.
Yes, and Joan and I met for the first time, and very impressed with the educational background. Not only does she understand the four corners, but I learned that she's from one of my states, and that's Wisconsin. And
Oh, there you go.
And so the fact that you can bring in ideas from other states, you know, she knows New Mexico. You know, she's worked in the special ed and early childhood arenas. She talks about working in psychology and sociology. Those are all gifts that can really help balance and fill gaps within the board. And so when you look at what makes those two sprockets on that bicycle, it's a lot of parts that Joan can bring to that conversation to keep that thing greased and lubricated from those conversations. And so we do welcome you. But before I let that go, can I do this and say, here's my cup of coffee? Because Sherry Galloway, you know, served on the board for 4 years. We worked together. And so I just wanted to say that we appreciate your service and we thank you. And
cheers, Sherry. We're toasting you with coffee.
And cheers, cheers to you. So thank you for letting me share, because we do appreciate the work that Sherry has done, and we do look forward to Joan accepting the Sherry challenge to carry on.
That's right. And so there'll be a swearing-in ceremony at the State School Board Association early in December, and then here in Farmington on January 9th is what I see.
Yes,
the plan?
Yeah. What Joan is all new to this business, so there is kind of
maybe some training that'll
statewide,
happen.
all those rookies get to stand up in front of all of us and get sworn in at Albuquerque.
Okay.
And then we come back and we do a more formal ceremony. So certainly, if District Court Judge Paul Briones is out there, he will be coming in to do that ceremony for us. And so we, Mr. Briones, we appreciate that commitment and that visibility to our community as the justice who will be bringing you officially into our system. So we look forward to that January meeting.
There you go. Well, very good. Again, congratulations, Joan Vallee, as a new member of the Farmington School Board. And Dr. Schmidt, we are running out of time, and so I will let you maybe tell us kind of what you'd want to mention here as we have a few minutes remaining this morning. Strategic plan, or do you want to talk ninth grade, or what would you like to cover this month?
Let's just say that in fast order, we are going through the strategic plan. Be watching for it on the school district's webpage. It will look different than what you might think about, and it looks different because we are bending or morphing a strategic plan image. You know, Scott, certainly we talk about SMART goals, where everything's strategic, measurable, achievable, research-based, time-driven. You know, it won't look like a SMART goal. What it will look like is a philosophical statement. And this year, the district, as a commitment to ensuring school safety, our goal as a district, every school is looking at something called Level 1 certification in safe, supportive, and collaborative schools. And so more to follow on that as we get closer to June of next year. So that would be one. Very quickly, want to let the public know that budgets are coming up, so we start the budget process. Do know that New Mexico continues to have about a $900 million cash reserve. And last year that 900 was put into public education. We are hopeful that they will do that again. And for what our community needs to know is that 87% of 95 million, so Scott, you can do the math for me.
No, I cannot, but thank you for thinking I could.
87% of 95 million, we can connect directly to the classroom, and that's causing those kids to get better every year. So let me end by just saying that we continue to be interested in how math is instructed and how math is kids are demonstrating their mastery of.
You mentioned those math scores earlier, so
yes.
Those are
23%. Yeah, 23% leads ground for improvement. So we are doing a math experiment at the high schools this year. We have what we call stacked math. So kids go to math for an hour of theory and then math for an hour of practice. It is a stacked math, 2 hours in a row.
Okay.
And what we were taking data a year ago when we didn't have stacked math, over 50% of our kids were not passing at the end of the first quarter. At the end of first quarter this year, 87.5% of kids were passing. And so it's the
with
early,
this stacked math concept.
With the stacked math concepts.
Okay.
And so
what a difference.
3 more weeks will end the semester, but if this holds true, that may point a pathway that we can look to for other grade levels to say, what if we added a little bit more time and really focused on theory and then practice in the hopes that would raise our proficiency. So Joan knows, because Joan teaches my kids when they get to the college. What she knows is that if you are a freshman and you don't accumulate credits, you have a low GPA, you have poor attendance, you're on your way to being a dropout. And so if I can have 97% of my kids pass algebra, they've got their credit, they've got their GPA, that means they've been attending class. That's a kid on the way to graduation.
Right.
So that's
solves
our
a
hope.
lot of other problems, it sounds like to me.
Yes.
So there you go. Well, we are out of time, everyone, I'm sorry to say, but it's been a great conversation this morning. Joan Vallee, thank you for coming back in to visit with me about serving on the school board, and much good luck to you. I know a lot of folks will be watching and
Yes.
rooting for you. So there you go. But great to have you here. Dr. Schmidt, always a pleasure, of course. And happy Thanksgiving to both of you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanksgiving.
My guests from the Farmington School District here on KSJE, everybody. And I'll be back with more in just a moment.
I'm Tracy K. Smith.